Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Titusville special meeting on July 19th, 2025 at 1 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Now for the invocation, please bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, City Clerk.
Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under the public comment. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table.
Thank you, City Clerk. So when we started this week, we had 5 high qualified candidates to interview. And as the week progressed, we had quite a few drop out, leaving only one applicant for us to interview today. Unfortunately, we had the events lined out, so we couldn't change that without having a special meeting to then change the meeting. So here we are to basically kind of still fulfill that system that we have laid out, and then at the same time have discussion. So I'm going to just walk through the agenda with City Council so everybody knows what's going on. We're going to interview Mr. Abate. We're going to allow for public comment. And then there's an ELT portion, executive leadership. So that's where we as council get feedback from the people that this position will be directly reporting to. So during that portion, we will just call a brief recess. Each council member will walk downstairs and meet with the executive leadership team individually for about 10 minutes. So each council member will spend 10 minutes with them. And then we will have council discussion. And then after that, we will bring up the city attorney position and then petitions and requests. Council, do you have any objections or suggestions on the series of events? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into the interview portion. As you can see, we have our amazing HR director, Mr. Joe DeNiro, sitting in that position as city manager, as it is appropriate that, we treat Tom like anybody else. No offense, Mr. Abate, but, we wanted to make this as fair and as a partial process as possible. So, Mr. Abate, would you, please take your position, and City Clerk, can you put 30 minutes on the clock, please? Thank you very much, and I think we had a pretty good process last time. Hopefully everybody has their questions, and we obviously all had an opportunity to interview Mr. Abate this morning, so had a lot of good discussion, but now it's the opportunity to do that as a group in front of the public. So with that being said, I'll allow Council Member Moscoso, unless Jolyn or you aching to go first? All right.
Doesn't matter.
So,
Doesn't matter.
Member Nelson, you have the floor.
Okay. Mr. Abate, you've been with the city a number of years. What would you see as changing in the future? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? Well,
Can you put the mic up to your mouth, please, so they can catch you? Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the public and also the executive leadership team for showing up on a Saturday afternoon. Very critical decision that the council has to make. To answer your question, what I'd see differently, I've had the pleasure of serving under 3 city managers, and I've seen a lot of various events occur in the city, and obviously some of the things that I would see changed, I would like to see the city more proactive in addressing the city's infrastructure. I'd like to see us more active in sustainability issues, also addressing social media. We have a good community relations program. I think we need to step it up a little bit more because obviously today's generation is more attuned to social media, and we need to keep pace with those advances. So there's a number of issues that I'd like to change, but we have a fantastic team on board, and I'm sure the city is ready to go forward with that.
Second question. In terms of the public, the public, well, everyone who comes in, how would you interact with them?
Well, obviously, we can do more community outreach. I think we need to be more transparent in everything we do. We need to put out on social media what's going on in the city, keep the citizens more advised. Communications is absolutely paramount. They need to know what's going on with their city government and the reasons for those decisions being made. And also, they have to know what all the different departments are doing in order to deliver, quality municipal services. So bottom line is we need to do better outreach to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nelson. Member Scosa, did you want to go?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abate. So my first question is, in what ways are you different from the previous city manager, and how would your leadership feel different to staff or citizens?
Again, I've had the fortune of working for 3 different city managers. Each one had a unique leadership style, and I've tried to, as I work for them, analyze each and every one of their styles and pick out the good elements that I would want to emulate. Certainly, I think I would want to be very outgoing to the community, be approachable to anytime a citizen has a concern, I would take that as my concern and I would address it, that way. Certainly work on relationships with council. Some of the city managers were at a higher level than I would be at as far as, I consider myself to be more in the weeds as far as working on the budget with the budget managers and working with the different departments. So there are good and bad points for each city manager, and I've tried to learn, what works for them and use those good points.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, there's kind of 2 pieces to it, but have you handled a situation where staff or the community feedback was critical of your decisions? And so that's the first part. And then can you name the time you changed your mind or adjusted course due to that input?
Well, certainly, I don't operate in a vacuum. I rely heavily on the executive leadership team and basically all citizen, employee feedback. We don't always agree, and I try to find the reasons why they disagree with what, policy or what type of initiative I'm trying to undertake. As far as instances where we've had disagreements, sometimes budget-wise, obviously when you're chasing scarce resources, each department head feels that their needs potentially could be above the others, and you have to broker those scarce resources. Sometimes, the police chief may want X number of additional police officers, and I can't afford to do that, so I would have to explain to him that we could maybe ration it out and do 2 at mid-year, 1, at the beginning of the budget year. The fire chief may want a certain type of equipment, and we may or may not be able to afford it. So there's always brokering of resources, and that seems to be the biggest issue. For the most part, we agree on the basics that we have to be accountable to the public and deliver, superior services. It's where we sometimes have disagreements is how to allocate resources, and that's why we get together on a weekly basis and we hash that out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Moscoso. Vice Mayor Cole.
I know you have consistently worked on the budget, and you basically are the budget czar. I have a procedural question. If we as council said, okay, you need to cut 5% of our employees, I'm not asking you what employees, I'm just asking you what procedure would you go through to make this happen?
That is a great question because, those are the type of questions I'm anticipating come August 7th when we do the first budget workshop. And as you know, we just submitted the city manager's proposed budget to you all, and those resource decisions will have to be made. So if I was asked cut 5%, I would immediately convene the executive leadership team and say, okay, we need to come up with the directive that the council issued, and we need to make those cuts. And I would look upon them to collectively address it and come up with a resolution, at which point I may or may not agree with, but, they are the subject matter experts in their own fields, and I look on them to provide me that direction. But we could do it.
As we always ask what you could do for us, but as a city manager, what could we do in the operation of city council that would help you and the city to operate better?
This may sound, corny, but trust us that we're going to be doing the right decision. We'll be making the right course of action that supports our strategic objectives. Providing us with the proper resources and the proper guidance so that we can go out and do our jobs. That's the main thing, is we'll come up with, what we know in our, respective fields of professional fields, and we would hope that the council would provide us with those resources needed to do our job.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cole. Member Stokel?
Yes. Appreciate our interview. I don't think we were able to have a conversation like that prior. And I was telling this to Mr. Abate. Even though I've been on council for a while, I did not have much interaction with him. So it was really nice to hear a little bit more about you. So my first question is, having worked with the city for a long time, and this is a little bit of a branch off of Member Nelson's question, understanding that we set we set city goals and priorities and a vision, I would anticipate a city manager coming into this role to have a vision for Titusville as well, as you're leading, hundreds of employees and taking care of the city. So can you briefly explain what your vision for Titusville is?
My vision is what the council comes up with during the strategic planning process. Council's role is to provide the vision, and I am to make sure that vision is implemented. I think where city managers get in trouble is when they start providing their own personal opinions on what the vision should be. I am not the elected official. The 5 members on the council are, and they provide the vision, and we implement that vision through the strategic planning process, through performance measures, and reporting back on our accomplishments. So, that would be my answer, is our vision is to implement what the goals of the city are as set forth by council.
Okay, and then that actually ties into my second question. Going to leadership style, and this is a kind of twofold. So can you briefly describe your leadership style in 2 different areas? One, when it comes to staff and employees, what's your leadership style there? But then also, what is your leadership style with working with us as council as we're working together? And as you just said, what happens if we all don't agree? How would you handle that as a city manager when you may hear conflicting or competing ideas? How would you handle that situation?
Well, that's a loaded question.
It
I'd
is.
like to answer the first part
Hey,
first.
I get no more questions, so I combined a little.
As far as my leadership style, obviously, I've been around the block and I've developed my own style of leadership, and it's very collaborative. I believe in ensuring that I surround myself with quality people that are professional and know their job, and my job is to motivate them and to provide them the resources to do their job. I trust them implicitly, and I know they'll do the job, but I also hold them accountable. When things don't go as well, we sit down and we talk about it, and we look for solutions to move forward. But my job is made easier because my leadership team is very professional and very well versed in the jobs they do. As far as working with council, obviously, it's more of a subservient role to council. I look to the 5 of you to provide me direction as to what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. And the interactions between council, I try to treat each one with respect, and I look for a consensus, and that tells me which way you're going as far as your leadership styles.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Member Stokel. Tom, obviously, I really appreciate our conversation that we had earlier today. What operational efficiencies would you enact should you get this role?
I obviously, with a number of years of experience, I have certain ideas that I would like to change in the future. They're not wholehearted drastic changes, but I think we'll do a better job with staffing issues. The city has been growing. When I first reported aboard, it was about 500. We went down to about 430 during the lean years, post-Challenger, post-shuttle. And then as the city has been growing, our staffing has been growing. It's up to 601. And obviously, staffing is the biggest cost. It's 70% of our budget. So I'd be looking to see some efficiencies in staffing. I would be looking to make sure that we have the proper software. Right now, we do not have the right software to do our job. Our software is obsolete, our enterprise-wide software. I'd be looking to council to support changing out the software. I'd be looking at some changes in how we do community outreach, how we leverage technology in community development. So there's a number of ideas that I have that, I would first obviously bounce off our leadership team to see if I'm, going down the right trail. But there's a number of ideas I have for efficiencies that I would certainly like to pursue with council support.
Thank you, Mr. Abate. And my next question is, you served for 20 years. What is your biggest accomplishment that you've had here at the city?
Well, there's besides lasting 20 years in this type of environment.
Well played, sir. Well played.
There's a number. I am proud of where the city has come in 20 years. The city is growing in leaps and bounds. We're really making great strides. We've outsourced the marina. That's certainly a great accomplishment. It was at 40% occupancy. Now it's at 91%. It's clearly the jewel. It shows you that not everything has to be done by government. You can do certain tasks by outsourcing. And there's other issues as far as, obviously the budget. We've been driving down the millage. I think we've been doing a good job of trying to provide municipal services that are par with anyone in the county. And we've had good relations with the county. There's a number of other issues that certainly make me bring me pride.
Thank you. I know we have some time left. What I would like to, this is not an additional question, but I would like to give you an opportunity to address council and the public, maybe share, your experience with the city and, just kind of highlight your qualifications.
Oh, certainly, thank you. As far as my qualifications, prior to entering in service with the city, I was a Coast Guard officer for 20 years. I graduated from the Coast Guard Academy, and I went to the College of William & Mary for my master's. I served on a number of cutters and some other shore assignments that were dealt with finance and controllership. Then I came to the city, and I'm very grateful that City of Titusville offered me the opportunity to serve as assistant city manager under Tom Harmer. And, it's been a pleasure working, and I'm certainly developed a lot of relationships. My goal is certainly to continue on. I've learned how to be accountable and how to be decisive in my decision making. The city's been through ups and downs. We've had challenges initially with the Challenger and the shuttle going down and other issues, COVID and just keeping pace with growth have been challenging. So, It's been a wonderful experience, and I hope to continue it.
Thank you, Mr. Abate. Now we're going to move into the public comment portion. So if anybody had a card for 4B, and just so everybody knows, the reason why we're doing this is because we will call a recess after this public comment, and I don't want people to wait around an hour to get your comments in case you have other things to do. So getting to the public comment portion first, I think, is important. So City Clerk, any cards?
So we actually have cards on 4A and 4B, but we're just doing 4B since the first part was a interview process, correct?
4A and 4B.
Okay, so we have Jesse Wright.
Curtis, can you turn the mic on, please?
Good evening. Name is Jesse Wright from 3550 South Washington Avenue, Titusville Resort and Destination. I came here in 2018 when I started the project, and I'm actually for Mr. Abate to continue being the city manager. In the last 4 years prior to Mr. Abate, I only had 2 meetings with the city manager. Within the last 4 months, I've had almost about 4 or 5 different meetings with Mr. Abate. He's been extremely available, time-wise, to meet me, and also with the planning department, Mr. Parrish. That's one. The second thing is, my understanding is he's been around for like 21 years. My gut feeling is that the candidates that didn't show up, they knew who they have to deal with. That's why they probably dropped out. So the other thing is, I'm hoping that the city council would consider the fact that any new person coming in that has to learn all these different projects. 5 years ago, the city had only about a few, like about 3 or 4. I think the city has got about almost 45. There's only about 30 of them in this magazine. So paying somebody that is going to come from the outside about $500,000 for 2 years to learn what he knows, to me, is something you have to consider. The other thing is that any city manager does need an assistant as well. So I'm hoping that Mr. Abate, once he gets approved, would select an assistant that be able to help him. And with that, I just want to say that I appreciate the time that you guys are spending. I certainly hope that you're not going to be running this process again to get more candidates to do this again, because I'm sure your time is valuable, so is his time and everybody else's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. City Clerk?
Stan Johnston.
Am I speaking on 4A, 4B, or what?
4A and 4B are basically the same thing. They're the same thing. So last week, we only did comments on 4B because that was the only action item. So 4A is just discussion. So if you put a card in for 4A, I'm going to count it as 4B so you can speak.
Really?
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
All right, well, there's only one action item, and that's 4B.
So I'm only get 3 minutes.
You only get 3
I only
minutes.
get, and it's, for 4A and 4B, I get only 3 minutes.
So there's no action item on 4A.
There's no 4C. Okay,
This is 4B.
okay. I'd like, my 3 minutes is,
City Clerk?
thank you. Okay, I don't know if y'all know what happened, but apparently, the other candidates, they knew he's gonna win. I mean, he was certainly the top choice. I don't know what Mr. Abate thinks about that. What do you think about that, Tom? Never mind, don't answer. So he is our top choice. I don't know how you can not accept it. You don't have a choice. That's him. He's here, and do I give him my support? Yes. Okay. So that's one thing. I give him my support, and I'm going to speak about some problems that we have in the city on this petitions and requests that I gave to Tom, to Moscoso, and to Mr. Cole last night, as far as what's going on in the city that he's going to have to deal with. And it's not good. It's big problems. So I'll be doing that on our petitions and requests. But he's got a big job to fulfill. And I'm hopefully that he will not be like Mr. Larice, but more like Mark. Right? Right. Okay. The second city manager that he's been under. He's been under three now: Harmer, Mark, and Scott. So Mark was a good one. Scott Larice was just a liar and did cheat. We don't need him around. Thank goodness he's gone. So he's the man. He's the man you got to take. And I know his brother. His brother's a good man. He doesn't play very good basketball, but he's a good man. And so I think he's come from a good family. And Coast Guard's pretty good, right? How about Navy? Yeah, Navy. I'm Navy. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Council, for being here and choosing him, because I know you will.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. City Clerk?
Daniel Leggett.
Good afternoon, y'all. I know we all could be out at the pier having a cool beverage, but we're here instead interviewing this gentleman. I personally do not know this gentleman, although I've worked for him for the past 20 years, or did. I retired in the beginning of the year after 26 years of working for this city. I have seen this city going downhill for 20 years. It used to be the city of service. Do you all remember the city of service? Amen. We're not the city of service anymore. He has not been the problem. He's been an assistant, but he is part of it, because how are you going to change anything if you keep putting the same people in the same positions? Nothing will change. We have major issues going on at this city that I'm told you all do not know about, which means if you don't know about them at his level and above, they're not telling you. Is that what we want to continue with? I don't know. I don't want it. But you do have major issues that are going to be coming down the pipes. Can this gentleman do the job? I don't know. I have no faith he's Coast Guard. I was Army. Besides that, I got nothing else to say. Yeah, I know you're Air Force too, so you can stay out of it too. But anyway, for that, and that's the only reason I'm staying it, is he was here with the last guy. He was here with Mark Ryan, which I have no love for, because he took away all my benefits. Tom Harmer, I thought was great. You know what Tom Harmer did that nobody else ever did? He went around and worked every job in this city. Every job with not every employee, but every job. Tom, he was there. That's all I'm up here to say is I think you can do better. I think we need to shake up the city if you want to be informed of what's actually going on in this city.
Thank you very much. City Clerk?
Tony Schiffalo.
Schiffalo, Norwood House. Well, possession is 9/10 of the law. Perception is 99% of what goes on. Perceptions vary, reflecting reality from barely true to almost totally the reality based on facts. I've ranked a few examples of public's perception, from frivolous and inaccurate interpretations to mostly factual perceptions. Perceptions that council meetings have become a circus, full of grandstanding and rude behavior, when in reality it's been citizens coming before you to express their griefs and grievances and, yes, Member Cole, complaints. Perceptions that out-of-towners and local rebel-rousers create a threatening atmosphere, scaring away other citizens and exhibiting public dysfunction. Perceptions that the new PIO is the mayor's personal publicity agent. Perceptions that the mayor himself was the center of deceptive and unethical behavior that led to his election. Perception that backroom negotiations led to the renewal of a beleaguered police chief's contract despite public outrage. Reflections that comment by a council member that the search for city manager could just stop and hire the current assistant led to him being the only candidate? And the perception is that hiring the assistant city manager will lead to more of the same instability, public dysfunction, and giving our city away to developers to the detriment of current residents. Therefore, to not be perceived as a total waste of taxpayer funds for a sham search for a new city manager, I suggest that you reopen the search and find a few new candidates to interview so that change can come to our city, which everyone is crying for. That isn't a perception, that is a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Kathleen O'Rourke.
Dr. Kathleen O'Rourke, Titusville resident. I want to start just by thanking you for providing this open forum to allow the citizens the opportunity to speak. It's clear that the city manager search didn't quite go as anticipated. And so at this point, you need to determine how to best move forward. I want to share my thoughts on this. As I see, there are essentially two options. You can end the search now and appoint Mr. Abate, or you can reopen the search now or at some point in the future. So first, to look at this, I wanted to review the reasons why, to begin with, you elected a nationwide search. You felt it was important to find the best candidate, and that could be done by hiring an outside firm for whom we paid $50,000. Second, you wanted to be sure the next city manager was selected without bias. And third, you also agreed to include citizen input in the process. Well, I think you could have done a better job on the third part. We can learn, there's room for improvement. And a failed search is not a failure if we learn from it. I think we learned that it would be beneficial to have a more diverse selection of candidates. There are some cultural differences in terms of chain of command and involvement with citizens that might not fit with the military model. The only benefit I see of not reopening the search is to save time and effort. And it's, of course, possible Mr. Abate may withdraw from the candidacy. The job of the city council is not always easy, and it's time-consuming, as I clearly saw at the last city council meetings, very long discussion on stormwater rates. But putting the needs of the citizens ahead of your own is what you signed up for when you ran for the council. One particular advantage to reopening the search is that we wouldn't have wasted the $50,000 that you felt very strongly, and I don't disagree, needed to be spent to get the best candidate. And I would also hope that Mr. Abate reapplies, but that's ultimately his decision. But what are the disadvantages of stopping here? I said we never got the benefit of our $50,000 investment. And secondly, it does give the impression, as Tony alluded to, that the race was fixed and a backdoor deal was made. I'm not saying that's the case, but unfortunately, some of the city council discussion about suspending the search and just hiring Mr. Abate before he even applied gave that impression. This does not benefit the reputation of the city, and I strongly believe it doesn't benefit Mr. Abate to be hired under a cloud of suspicion. I personally don't see any advantage in suspending it for a given period of time, as it just prolongs the time we're having an interim manager, but there might be advantages I don't know. But basically, I just want to strongly request that you reopen the search and also revisit that list that Tony gave you of ways citizens could be involved in the process. Reopening the search in conjunction with expanding the search criteria and allowing for more citizen input can only serve to benefit the cities of Titusville.
Thank you. City Clerk?
The last card is Mark Frank.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for letting me have a chance to speak. I've been a business owner in this town for 20 years, a sign company, and I have to say, I've seen the city grow a lot. I don't know where everybody's coming up or we're having all these troubles with the city. You guys are great. You've changed, you've done well. This gentleman here, I don't really know him, but we do need a little bit of a change as far as the city council, the manager goes. And I feel, the council, I think, is fine. And the mayor, and by the way, I'm glad to have you sitting there too. Because I've seen growth in my company, and I've seen growth on our streets. I've seen developments going on right now, and that means that Titusville is doing something right, Because if we weren't, we'd be locked up doors. You wouldn't see businesses out there. And so I think you all are doing a great job letting us come out here and talk and see our piece. And, not everybody's got the same opinion, but I tell you what, it's great to have somebody who's already had 20 years experience, because I've hired new employees that come in and you've got to train them. That costs money, that costs time. But if you have somebody already that knows the system and is willing to work with everybody, and not only willing to work with everybody, willing to change a few things for the benefit of our citizens, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good thing. We don't need to waste our money or our time looking for other candidates. I think you have somebody sitting in front of you that is not only have a military background, but also has the knowledge of what the city does and wants. So that's what my opinion is, and everybody's got one.
Thank you, sir. And City Clerk, just to confirm, we're no more cards, correct?
Correct.
Okay. At this time, ELT, can you head down to the round room, please? Okay, so just to remind everybody where we're at in the process, we're going to take a recess for about 50 minutes. This is going to allow each council member to go one-on-one down to the round room and meet with the executive leadership team, so the department heads that directly report to the city manager for their feedback on the hiring process as well. So, and because we can't all do it together, we're going to do it one-on-one. And this will also give our executive leadership team, those department heads, the ability to express their concerns frankly about their potential new boss. So that's kind of why we keep it confidential. So at this time, we're going to go to recess. Member Moscoso, would you like to go first? this meeting back to order. And now we're going to move into the council discussion portion of the meeting. So that being said, council members. Vice Mayor Cole.
I have to say, prior to the day, I was very conflicted on our decisions. I reviewed all the resumes and made a decision based on the resumes. And unfortunately, we lost everybody. I have been totally impressed with Mr. Abate and the work that he has done. And what has pushed me over the top is the fact that I had an opportunity to talk to the senior staff, and I have heard nothing but positive comments about the management, the way he manages, the way he leads. And I think that's at this point, that's the direction that I want to go in. I think that at this point in time, our city needs continuity. If we went out and found a new city manager, that continuity wouldn't exist. It would take that new city manager about 6 months to a year to become up to snuff on the way things are going. So right now, that's the way I feel about it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cole. Member Nelson.
I agree with Member Cole. If we go out and redo the search, we will not have a city manager until probably January, February next year. And I hate the idea of us not having somebody in that position. And I agree with the stability of the city. I will say I am very impressed with Mr. Abate's outreach to the community, his willingness to engage with the community, and likewise, in talking to the senior staff, what they're expressing to me is his willingness to engage with them, talk to them, work through problems with them. I tend to agree with Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Member Nelson. Member Stokel.
Yes, I think it comes as no surprise that I was beyond frustrated with this process. I think you all received an email from me about how disappointed I was that we were losing candidates left and right this week. Found out there was a few reasons why that could have taken place. And that's not Mr. Abate's fault. He applied, and I think that, and I wanted to be clear, my frustration was not with him, it was with this process. It did not turn out the way I had anticipated, and I've been this whole week just trying to figure out what are the options that we could have as a council. As some of you guys have said, I have been thoroughly impressed with working with Mr. Abate. I think that I didn't really know what to expect when he took on the interim role. And since then, he has continued to impress me. I think we've mentioned some ideas here, and he has not forgotten them. He brings them back to us. I have not met with confrontation or, I don't really like that idea, so I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear that one. I think he's willing to work with all of us and all of our varying personalities. And talking with our firm that we hired, another thing that made me feel better about moving forward with Mr. Abate is they do have a 1-year guarantee. So if for some reason something doesn't work out or we're working with Mr. Abate, they would not charge us again. So to me, I don't like that. We went through this process. We did use a budget for that. It was not $50,000. It was less than that. But again, it wasn't Mr. Abate's fault that all these things happened. I think there's multiple reasons. And so how I'm feeling now going through this process, I would like to move forward with Mr. Abate. I'd like to give him the chance to actually be permanent city manager. I think my hope is, and I do believe, that we will all be impressed by him. I think the public will be impressed by him. And it's just been nice to see from when he became interim to where he is now, and I think moving from interim to permanent, again, not the ideal situation and circumstances, I do think he would thrive in the role.
Thank you, Member Stokel. Member Moscoso, you did have your light on.
I did. I didn't know if you were wanting to respond to.
Well,
Member Stokel.
I was just going to say, one of the suggestions was a 2-year contract with Mr. Abate, maybe with an extension for 2 years, and opt out if something happens. He doesn't like us, we don't like him, where we could terminate the contract if needed. And that might be a good solution.
Thank you, Member Nelson. Member Moscoso?
Thank you. So yeah, I really appreciate Mr. Abate. You stepped into this role when we needed leadership, and you've done a fantastic job. And you've been extremely professional and helpful, and you've made my first year on council much easier. So thank you for that. But I do think that expanding the search is also fair to him. I think it allows us to be open, and that if we do eventually, if we choose him, which would be my hope, that he would be stepping into a permanent role with public confidence, and that people would know that you were chosen because we were able to compare you to other candidates. I think we're really kind of left with one candidate, and for me, it's not necessarily, that's not a choice. My goal would be to put it back out, even though I can't speak any higher of Mr. Abate. He's done a wonderful job, but I just think it is important to have options. And I do want to put this on the record. There's nothing nefarious going on with this process. There are a lot of things that contributed to this. So Mr. Abate just followed what we had set forth. And so I think that's important to say. There was nothing behind the scenes going on. This is just how it turned out. Candidates dropped out for various reasons. I just would feel more comfortable going back out, and I know that would delay the process. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Member Moscoso. When we searched for city attorney on our own, we had 9 applicants. 5, right? Or 4. 4 were deemed qualified, right? When we used a search firm, we had over 60 applicants, and we deemed 9 highly qualified per the search firm. And unfortunately, it just got whittled down, where, maybe they couldn't make the interview or whatever external factors that contributed to them dropping out. However, I did review those 60 resumes, and I do feel that a search was conducted and everybody did apply. Just because, unfortunately, we did not get a chance to interview, we did compare Mr. Abate to 59 other applicants. So that was also on the table. And at the beginning of the week, we did have the opportunity to invite anybody to interview, which, council declined, and we decided to move forward with the 4. And unfortunately, things happened, again, outside of our control and Mr. Abate's. So I feel that for the last, what has it been, 3 months now?
Almost 4.
Almost 4 months. Mr. Abate has had a working interview with every single one of us and has performed very, very well, working with the public, working with the staff, working with us, and I have the utmost confidence that he'll be able to do the job. Now, again, to Member Nelson's point, if council wishes to, put a specific term on it, maybe, Jolyn said 2 years, but, if we did 1 year, so we're still within that guarantee that, hey, we can always go back out to search, I'm okay with that too. But again, I have the confidence that Mr. Abate can get the job done. So those are my thoughts. Member Stokel?
Yeah, maybe that is a question for our HR director. How does it typically work once you do agree upon? What are the terms of the contract? Like, for instance, when we had our former city manager, or
Mr. DeNiro, can you turn your microphone on and talk into it, please?
and I ask this because I know there's a contract which
Sure.
allows you certain benefits. So should somebody get terminated, so there's a contract, but obviously if there's ever 3 people up here that want to terminate, you can terminate before. So the contract is a guarantee, but also not. So if you just explain.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Stokes, but typically, city managers report to their charter employees. They report to you and their at-will employees on the conditions of whatever employment agreement that you come up with. In the past, those employment agreements have not been for terms, certain terms, as you're stating. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Stokes for his legal issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in a lot of contract negotiations for various charter officers. There's pretty much anything, your imagination could come up with. I've seen at one point or another, sometimes they include cars, they include health insurance, the employee portion paid for or not, certain moving expenses, all kinds of stuff. So it's whatever. I had, when I spoken about the city attorney contract last week, I said, well, let's see what the last one looked like, and that'll be our starting point, because that's what the city's used to. Probably not much deviation. We want to make sure that there's nothing in the charter or an ordinance that doesn't allow or doesn't provide for something. Like, let's say on the health insurance, it's locked in that every employee will pay an employee portion. It's like, well, at that point, maybe you can't have that in the contract because the ordinance doesn't allow for it. So we'll go through all that. But as far as termination, charter officers are always at will. But there is a provision usually for a cause determination or a no cause determination. No cause determination generally involves some sort of severance payout. A cause determination doesn't, but usually involves, and actually has to by law, allow for some sort of hearing. Because if you're going to accuse a charter officer of something, they need to have the right to address those charges. That's why you see most terminations, whenever you see them around, they usually just go the route of saying it's for no cause, even if it is cause, just because it's cleaner and easier. Contracts for terms, I've seen those a lot, and that's good. Generally, you'll put some sort of trigger date in it to be fair to the charter officer and the city, because like in this case, if Mr. Abate is not going to continue past, let's say, an initial term of 2 years, city's going to need time to start advertising for somebody new. And in fairness to Mr. Abate, he's going to need to be noticed. So you might have a 2-year term, but then maybe back it up 4 months or 6 months and say, if it's not going to be renewed, notice will be given by whatever, April 1st, so whatever, a date certain, so that there's a notice period. And if that notice period passes, then it automatically renews for another 2 years and another 2 years, something like that. So there are a lot of options that we can go through. And I could certainly talk to each one of you and see if you have any ideas when we start negotiating something. So,
Vice Mayor?
Well, the fact that as we have the responsibility, I'm not sure that we really need term limits, because if we wanted to terminate him, it would take 3 of us to do it. And I'm not sure that I don't know what normally other cities do, but I would be reticent to put term limits in.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Member Stokel?
Yes, and I think that's where I was coming from, and I appreciated Mr. Abate. Another thing that I do want to say that I gathered from our interview, and then even what Member Nelson said, that really makes me feel a lot more comfortable with him, is he really is coming here because he cares about the city and he wants to see it. It's not a stepping stone for him. It's not like, this is now I want to just sit here and do nothing and earn a paycheck. He was fine with the same pay. He's not trying to, I think he has very pure intentions. And like I said, this week's been very challenging for me figuring out what best course of action, because I agree with Member Moscoso. Ideally, I would want some other candidates to interview and see, and I had to weigh that. Like, what, for me personally, what would I feel comfortable with if we go out and we get some more interviews? I think it's also important to know that he was a finalist for Cape Canaveral, which shows the caliber of person that he is as a city manager, and chose to withdraw from that and risk, not knowing what the future of Titusville, what we would decide, took his name out of that when they were planning to interview him. And I think that shows also his care and passion for Titusville. And I had to weigh that too alongside as much as we need to make our decision here and do what's best for the city, what's fair to him and stability for him to make decisions about, he will be moving now because that's a requirement. And so what does that look like if we go back out and we may end up picking him, we may not? Should he go look for other work? What if we don't get as good of a candidates and we lost out on him? And so that's ultimately what made my decision from, and it really was split because part of me did want to go back and get some more, though I will say I do question how many candidates will actually want to come interview here, especially after I have talked to some of them and had some conversations about and seeing how many pulled out, quite frankly. And I think it's important to note that even with talking to our firm we used, the worst that they've had, and this has been rare, has had 2 candidates to interview. They have never had just one, ever, given different situations. And so I think we're in a unique position here as well. And so I had to weigh what is the reality of our situation, of the caliber of candidates we will get to get interviewed and come here versus what do I know, having worked with Mr. Abate and seeing what he's done in his short time as being interim versus what I believe he can do if he were made permanent. And I do think that he would do an excellent job. I think that he will help move the city in the right direction. So I'm okay with going back to the contract thing, letting them work that out with the attorney. I don't know if we need to put a time limit on it or a year certain because I feel that that's not that binding. It really only covers potentially what your severance would be, which is typically, I want to say, 2 months. So I'm okay not worrying about that.
Thank you, Member Stokel. Any other discussion? Vice Mayor Cole?
I'll make a motion. I move that we appoint Mr. Abate as our city manager.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further council discussion? All right, City Clerk?
Member Moscoso,
No.
Member Nelson,
Yes.
Mayor Connors,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole,
Yes.
Member Stokel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mr. Abate. Thank you. You can now take your actual seat if you want. Yeah.
I'm back on duty right away.
Yeah.
I believe it's called the hot seat.
Yeah. All right, next up on the agenda is our city attorney selection process. City manager?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the city council for their confidence in me, and I will do 110% effort to make you proud of your selection. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
So the next agenda item is city attorney. We're turning our attention to the city attorney.
What is your point of order, sir?
This is not on the agenda, anything else about this.
There will be
It
time
was
for public.
It was an addendum, to the city agenda, and it's available, and it was announced. And well, again, please see Wanda if you want to put a card in for it, but we're introducing the item. I acknowledge your point of order and hopefully have acknowledged the response. City manager?
Yes, sir. As you recall, last Saturday, we had a similar proceeding selecting a first candidate for the city attorney. We found out through negotiations that that candidate had decided to pursue a career opportunity elsewhere and declined to negotiate with us. So therefore, we are left, basically, we had a second-ranked candidate and 2 other candidates that were not ranked. So the option is potentially to authorize HR to negotiate with the second-ranked candidate, if that's council's desire, or to begin another search, or to potentially, and I don't know if Mr. Stokes would be willing to entertain becoming the interim city attorney. Well, okay, we'll strike that option. But those are the 2 options, sir.
Thank you, city manager. Member Nelson?
I think we ought to negotiate with number 2.
Thank you, Member Nelson. Vice Mayor?
I agree.
Member Stokel?
I'm leaning toward that. I would say before we do that, my request would be, just because we noticed it yesterday for today, I would like to add it to our agenda on Tuesday, which I have asked our acting city attorney if we can still do that. We're within that time. That way, public can have the chance to decide and weigh in on that. But yes, I am leaning towards that. But I would like to make that decision on Tuesday after we are able to add it to our agenda.
Vice Mayor?
Is it that it's against the rules for us to make the decision today? I mean, do we have to delay until Tuesday?
City Attorney?
I'm asking the city attorney.
Yeah, you could make the contract's going to have to come back to you for approval. So, and that will have to happen later, whether you make this decision to direct staff now or on Tuesday. But what staff needs at this point is direction to start those negotiations. I think the idea is that because this was added on to today's agenda, just a little over 24 hours ago, because that's what the charter requires is 24 hours notice. This was very last minute, but you had already ranked these two as 1 and 2. You just never gave direction to negotiate with number 2. But whether we get that process started today or Tuesday, either way, you won't see the contract until your next regular meeting.
Okay, so there's no requirement that we have to wait. We can make that motion today and you'll put the wheels in motion. Is what,
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, you could.
make the motion and put the wheels in motion. That was pretty good.
All right, thank you very much. So there was some discussion. Everybody's been heard, but I need a motion if that's the way you're going to go.
I'll make that motion.
I will
Oh.
after the motion's made.
So my motion would be to go ahead and negotiate with Mr. McHenry.
I'll second.
All right, so a motion's been made. Of course, this was, on the agenda. Yes, Mr. Johnson. City Clerk, are there any other cards other than Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, just Mr. Johnson.
All right, Mr.
Well,
Johnson.
actually, also Jesse Wright.
All right.
I just want to make a suggestion. I wonder, this happened to me in the private sector when you have people coming in and apply, they get the job, but they're not sure if they're going to get the job or not. So can the candidate actually make a contract and sign a contract with a contingency of getting the HR involved at some points so they know they have a job instead of waiting for the HR to be approved? That's just a suggestion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson?
Stan Johnston, you have my apology, and Jesse corrected me. He told me about that there's an agenda. Yeah, and so the main thing I'm going to do is I'm just apologizing for doing a point of order there because I didn't apparently I needed a card on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, so I have a motion and I have a second. Any further council discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Member Nelson,
Yes.
Mayor Connors,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cole,
Yes.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Moscoso.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. All righty, now we're to petitions and requests, non-agenda items. All right, Mr. Johnson, did you want petitions and requests?
This pink card that you received is a card I handed out yesterday to Herman and Miss Megan and to Tom. And this has to do with our choice of city manager. And the subject is something that has to do with something you don't want to hear about. That's dishonesty and distrust of our government. Because right now, the city of Titusville is committing numerous crimes. Right now. That's what this pink card is about. Right now. Is that, let me read to you what it says. It says, question, How could anyone build a dam immediately downstream of houses already in the one in your floodplain? How can they do it? Well, think about it. Think about it. We've got in ditches and so forth, I've counted at least 10 of these obstructions and dams in ditches. And they're all what? Let me tell you what they don't have. There's no survey of the property. There's no survey of the wetlands. There's no compensatory storage. There's no contact to the FEMA. There's no proper calculations for compensatory, no proper calculations for the one in your floodplain and revisions to the one in your floodplain, and it's a violation of City Code 12-11. All of those 6 are violations right now. Not just yesterday, but right now. These dams. So what is the city doing about this? And the thing is, let's talk about, this is a deliberate violations of simple logic and common sense. I just asked you the question, how can anyone build a dam immediately downstream of houses already in the one of your floodplain? When did this question come up? 1985. The city's still, the answer is the same. How can you do it? You're illegally doing it. Right now, the city is, with their dishonesty and with their, and we have lack of trust, is this law is being broken right now by our professional engineers, by Public Works, by City Council, by our attorney, by administration. How can we trust you when it's simple logic? These dams are all illegal. The city is breaking them right now. How can we trust you when you continue with these illegal activities? What this act is talking about, violation of simple logic and common sense. That's what you violate. So, not only just is engineering, it's simple logic.
Thank you, Mr.
Common
Johnson.
sense. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.